Now, for decades at a stretch, NDTV was an outlier in the TV news ecosystem, a network which shunned the foxification of news, where noisy debates had no place. Now then in 2022, it underwent a massive transformation when the Adani Group took it over, and then subsequent expansion too under a new editor. And last year, we saw Rahul Kanwal take over the reins of NDTV as the CEO and editor-in-chief. Right now, we are in his studio, and for a change, he's the one being interviewed. Thank you so much, Rahul, for joining us.
This is a very intimidating role reversal. I'm ordinarily used to being the one asking questions. So, yeah, thank you for being here. It's fantastic to have all of you over here with us.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you so much.
So, Exchange for Media has sent the entire arsenal of editors for you, Rahul.
You know, it's like a chakravyuh that you built. You got me trapped right in the middle of it. Yes.
Rahul, you made the transition from newsroom leadership to the CEO's office. How has that transition really changed the way you think about journalism?
So, Rahul, this hasn't been new in my personal journey, honestly. About 3 years ago, I became Executive Director of Business Today while I was at the India Today Group. That was an editorial and P&L responsibility where I was responsible for building out Business Today's pivot from being a largely magazine-first print brand into a multimedia brand. We did BT TV, we did live stock markets, we did YouTube, digital, social, the entire gamut of the kind of 360 multiverse that we're now trying to do at NDTV at a much bigger level. And we also grew the revenue lines more than 5x of where I inherited the base at Business Today from. So this is a reality that you have to deal with. You need to run a news business which is credible, which is legitimate, which does the news in the way that it needs to do the news. And you also need to ensure that you are financially viable and independent.
Now in industry circles, you are being referred to as the Khatron ke Khiladi for taking over NDTV at a time when it was going through existing revenue pressures. How are you perceiving it? What went wrong? And how soon do you see you can get it back to the road to profitability?
You know, NDTV is, Neeta, one of India's most marquee media brands. And when internationally people think of Indian news, the one brand that comes most often to their minds is NDTV. This is as true in the United States as it is in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, and of course in India as well. So this is not really khatra in the way that you position it, because this is at the core a very deeply trusted media institution. Yes, you're right, as the ownership changed and it went through a management transformation, the brand was in a position where the road ahead had to be charted. I thought of that as a great opportunity to rebuild a new NDTV for a new India, to give this brand passion, to give it purpose, to give it energy, to give it ideas. And we're just 1 year into this new journey, if a few years from now, we've been able to succeed in building a new NDTV for a new India, a marquee media news organization that many in India and abroad are proud of, I think it's an opportunity worth taking. It's a khatra, worth embarking upon. Because, there's no point if there are 100 reasons why NDTV might have failed. There are just very few which can help it succeed. The question is, can you find the levers? Can you do what is required to be done in this age of AI, in the kind of fragmented attention reality spans that we're seeing, to ensure that it stays credible, it stays relevant, and it grows? That is the challenge. I think it's a huge professional challenge, and I'm very grateful to the management of the Adani Group for thinking me worthy of this opportunity, for giving me this chance to go out and build this new NDTV. And we've just started, so it'll take some more time, and I think the results will speak for themselves.
सबसे पहले आपले शहर स्वागत आहे.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, थैंक यू वेरी मच.
दूसरा मेरा पहला सवाल हम यही से शुरुआत करते हैं कि जैसे किसी कॉरपोरेट समूह का कोई न्यूज़ चैनल होता है, उसमें सवाल उठते हैं कि क्या एडिटोरियल स्वतंत्रता मिलेगी नहीं मिलेगी. बहुत सारे सवाल उठते हैं. एज ए एडिटर इन चीफ आप इस स्वतंत्रता को कैसे सुनिश्चित करते हैं?
पंकज, पहली बात तो यह है कि लोगों के जहन में शक होना लाजमी है और इससे आप इनकार नहीं कर सकते. मुझे लगता है कि मैं कुछ कहूँ उससे ज़्यादा लोग हमारे चैनल को देखें, हमारे डिजिटल सोशल यूट्यूब फीड को देखें और अपना मन खुद बनाएं. आप यहाँ पर बैठ के अपनी निष्पक्षता का ऐलान करते रहें कि आप बहुत सच्चे हैं, बहुत बेखौफ हैं, उसको कोई मानेगा नहीं. लोग चैनल लगाएंगे, यूट्यूब देखेंगे, सोशल पे देखेंगे, डिजिटल पे देखेंगे, इंस्टा पे देखेंगे और अपना मन खुद बनाएंगे। अगर आपकी संस्थान में खबरों को दिखाने की सच्चाई है, अगर आपके पत्रकारों में नैतिकता है, अगर वो ढंग से सवाल पूछते हैं, बेखौफ होके नेताओं से, मंत्रियों से, कॉर्पोरेट से सवाल करते हैं, तब तो लोग उसको अप्रिशिएट करेंगे, उसको पहचानेंगे। और अगर आपकी खबरों में धार नहीं है, अगर फीकी, अधूरी, डरी हुई खबरें आप दिखा रहे हैं, तो लोग उसको बहुत जल्दी देख लेंगे। बीते ही 1 साल में पंकज, आप यूट्यूब लीजिए, डिजिटल लीजिए या सोशल लीजिए, इंटरनेट लीजिए, एनडीटीवी हर पैमाने पर बहुत तेज़ी से ग्रो कर रहा है। यूट्यूब में पहले चैनल की रैंकिंग 12 हुआ करती थी, अब या तो 1 है या 2 है, नंबर 1 या नंबर 2, महीने दर महीने आ रहा है। इसी तरीके से इंस्टाग्राम पे, टीवी में भी हर हफ्ते हम लोगों की रेटिंग्स बढ़ रही थी। अब तो कई हफ्तों से रेटिंग आ नहीं रही, लेकिन उससे पहले लगातार इजाफा हो रहा था। तो इसका मतलब साफ है कि कहीं ना कहीं लोग हैं जिनको आपकी पत्रकारिता अच्छी लग रही है, पसंद आ रही है, आपकी जर्नलिज्म उनसे कनेक्ट कर रही है, इसीलिए वो देख रहे हैं। अगर नहीं होता तो ऐसा नहीं होता। आप किसी को भी बेवकूफ़ नहीं बना सकते। आप कभी भी कुछ आप बहुत होशियारी से बोल दो और मान लो कि लोग मान लेंगे, ऐसा नहीं होता। अगर वो खबर देख रहे हैं, उनको लग रहा है कि ढंग से कर रहा है तो उसको मानेंगे, अगर उनको लग रहा है कि ढंग से नहीं कर रहा उसको कभी नहीं मानेंगे। तो मुझे लगता है कि जनता जैसे वोट देती है, वैसे उस तरीके से अगर वो आपको वोट देगी, आपकी पत्रकारिता वोट देगी तो देखेंगे, नहीं देगी तो नहीं देखेंगे। और मेरी जिम्मेदारी है कि लोगों का विश्वास जीतने की कोशिश करना, सच्चाई से, ईमानदारी से, निष्पक्षता से खबरें दिखाना, बिना डरे खबरें दिखाना। और अगर हमारी ईमानदारी लोगों को अच्छी लगेगी तो खबरें देखेंगे, नहीं लगेगी तो नहीं देखेंगे।
Talking about editorial integrity, now NDTV was forever considered as that last bastion of independent journalism. Is it still a people's channel? And the case in point is when the NEET protests happened, nationwide protests there, a lot of the student population, they alleged that the mainstream media, including NDTV, showed more of the political angles and demanding accountability from the government or showing students' demands. What is your response to that criticism?
Neeta, NDTV was arguably the only mainstream media organization which had a battery of its top anchors, editors, reporters deployed at Jantar Mantar covering that protest non-stop. You know, our managing editor Shiv Arur went there, Padmaja Joshi was there, Sucharita Kukreti, Sohail from our Hindi channel, Ankit Tyagi was there. Like the entire galaxy, Vishnu Shom was there day after day. So the entire galaxy of NDTV talent was out on the ground covering that protest. It is but natural that protesters will have concerns, and those are legitimate. Mainstream media hasn't done a fantastic job of conducting itself, and that is the reality. You can't run away from that. If you call the students goons, etc., then obviously people out in the streets won't like you. But I was determined to ensure that we were out on the streets with the protesters, listening to their voice, ensuring that their voice is heard and amplified to our audience. Whether we did this well enough, did we do enough, could we have done more, those are legitimate questions. You can't run away from them. But it's not as if we were trying to vilify the protesters or demonize them or just try and find fault with them. There were also certain anti-social elements who had crept in and were antagonizing the police. That is also a reality. Some of that data has come out as well. I think that's as much a part of the story. You carry the voice of the protesters. You also show if the protesters or some protesters attack the police. I think this is what journalism is. It's not about picking a side. It's not about whether you're left or right, whether you tom-tom just what the government says or blindly believe everything the students say. I think the whole job of journalism is to look at what's being said, applying your own brain, looking at the story as it is before your eyes and reporting both sides of it, which is what we tried to do as best as we could. And that's what we'll do in every such opportunity that comes along.
यस नीता जी के सवाल से जुड़ा ही मेरा एक छोटा सा सवाल है। जैसे अभी हम प्रोटेस्ट की बात कर रहे हैं, नीट का जो वहाँ पे प्रोटेस्ट हुआ, तो तमाम लोगों का कहना है कि मीडिया ध्रुवीकरण में बंध गई है, मतलब पार्ट्स में डिवाइड हो गई है और विश्वसनीयता खोई है, जैसा कि वहाँ पर तमाम रिपोर्टर्स के साथ हुआ। तो क्या आपको ऐसा लगता है कि मीडिया की विश्वसनीयता वास्तव में कम हुई है, और क्या इसको वापस पाने के लिए आपकी नज़र में क्या किस तरह से पाई जा सकती है?
पंकज, आपने मेरे काम को पिछले 2.5 दशक से देखा है। मैं लेफ्ट या राइट, पक्ष में या खिलाफ में, इस तरह की पत्रकारिता में विश्वास ही नहीं करता। मेरे हिसाब से कि आपको सबकी सुननी चाहिए। सरकार का कोई कार्यक्रम होता है वहाँ जाते हैं, कांग्रेस या विपक्ष का कोई कार्यक्रम होता है वहाँ भी जाते हैं, उनको भी सुनते हैं, और मैं इसी तरह की पत्रकारिता में विश्वास रखता हूँ। तो ये कहना कि जनता के बीच में मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया को लेके सवाल हैं, एकदम हैं, वाजिब हैं, और मेरे में ही जहन में कई सारे सवाल हैं, क्योंकि हमारे कई सारे साथी हैं जो अजीब अजीब हरकतें करते हैं, जो जब इस तरह के सवाल पूछते हैं, इतना डर के पूछते हैं, लेट पे किसी के चरणों पे लेट के पूछते हैं, क्या ही कर रहे हैं यार, मतलब कैसे सोते होंगे ये रात को। मतलब ईमानदारी से करो, अपना काम करो, और नहीं कर पाए तो घर जाओ। मतलब कोई ऐसी मजबूरी तो है नहीं ना करने की। आपको जो करना है, जिस हद तक आप ईमानदारी से कर सकते हो आपको करना चाहिए। नहीं कर पाए तो कुछ और कीजिए। ऐसे आपको किसी ने बांध के थोड़ी रखा हुआ है कि डर डर के आप सवाल पूछ रहे हैं। भाई सर, जनता का काम है सवाल पूछना, सरकार का काम है सवालों के जवाब देना। वित्त मंत्री इस प्रोटेस्ट खत्म होने के अगले दिन एनडीटीवी प्रॉफिट के कार्यक्रम में आई थी। बिजनेस लीडरशिप अवार्ड्स मुंबई में ताज कुलाबा में था, और हमने कई सारे सवाल पूछे कि क्या बहुत देरी कर दी सरकार ने स्टूडेंट से इंगेज करते हुए, पहले क्यों नहीं जगे, इतनी नाराज़गी स्टूडेंट्स में आई, आपको पता क्यों नहीं चला, पहले धर्मेंद्र प्रधान ने क्यों नहीं जवाब दिया। वहाँ पे कई सारे औद्योगिक घरानों के लीडर्स थे, उन्होंने बोला अरे आप में बड़ी हिम्मत है, आपने किस तरह से ऐसे सवाल पूछे। मैंने कहा ये मेरी जिम्मेदारी है, हिम्मत नहीं है, ये मेरा काम है, ये मेरा धर्म है, ये मेरा फ़र्ज़ है, और जिस हद तक मैं कर सकता हूँ उसको मैं करूँगा। और इसमें मुझे कोई ब्रेवरी का सर्टिफिकेट नहीं चाहिए, किसी से नोबेल प्राइज़ नहीं चाहिए, ये मेरा काम है, मैं अपना काम ठीक से करूँगा। मैं कोशिश करूँगा कि हमारी टीम में जितने भी एंकर्स हैं, संपादक हैं, रिपोर्टर्स हैं, प्रोड्यूसर्स हैं, वो अपना काम अच्छे से करें। और हमारी उम्मीद है कि हमारी जो ईमानदारी है, हमारी जो सोच है, हमारे जो प्रयास है, वो जनता देखेगी, मानेगी। मेरे को जो चिंता है पंकज, वो ये कि जनता के बीच में कभी कभी वो मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया को एक मोनोलिथ के तौर पे देखते हैं कि सारे चैनल एक जैसे हैं, या सारे नेता चोर हैं, या सारे पुलिस वाले चोर हैं, या सारे पत्रकार बिके हुए हैं। मेरे को लगता है वो गलत है। अगर आप देखो तो आप पाओगे कि अलग अलग शेड्स ज़िंदगी में, पांचों उंगलियां बराबर नहीं होती, सारे पत्रकार एक जैसे नहीं होते, सबका अपना सोचने का तरीका है, अपना काम करने का तरीका है। और मुझे लगता है जैसे आने वाले वक्त में एनडीटीवी और काम करेगा इस नए अवतार में, लोग जो हम लोग कर रहे हैं, कह रहे हैं वो नहीं, जो हम लोग कर रहे हैं उसको देखेंगे। अगर उनको अच्छा लगेगा तो मानेंगे, नहीं अच्छा लगेगा तो नहीं मानेंगे।
So related to this, what is the toughest challenge in leading a legacy news brand according to you?
The key is relevance and mind space. You know, as we live in the attention economy, where attention spans are becoming shorter and shorter, like Instagram, Reels, how do you capture mind space and attention? And it is very easy to capture attention if you are in one corner. If you are extreme right, you call the students goons, there will be a certain population you appeal to. If you are fully on the side of the students and you think the government is the worst thing, it's the worst government in the world, it's the most horrible thing that's happened to India, if you project that image, as many people do, then again you'll have a very core constituency of loyal believers. How do you find space in the middle? I believe India's democracy thrives in the middle. This is where our democratic values live, they breathe. I think of NDTV as a big tent of ideas, of opinion, of shades. This is not one Moses leading the way and showing people the path. This is not about what I think. This is about different editors, different journalists, different shades of opinion. I don't have to agree with everything each one of our anchors or editors says. You have to give people shades of opinion. Pankaj may have a different take at Samachar for media on a story. Neeta may look at it differently. Rahul may look at it differently. You have to be able to appreciate different points of view. You can't say, this is the only point of view. I know in some networks that's how it works, that the editor-in-chief says, this is my line on the story and expects all reporters to follow exactly that line. I think that is wrong. I think that reporters need to report what they're seeing around them. It should not be dictated from somebody sitting in an AC studio dictating and determining what their reporters and anchors will say. And I think anchors and editors should be allowed to voice their own thoughts without being dictated by a central command. This is the line, this is the WhatsApp group, and now this is what you must say. I think that's wrong. That's not journalism. That's propaganda.
At the risk of making it sound like a monolith, the younger generation think that the traditional media has failed them, and the independent digital platforms are the way forward. Now in this case, also considering the kind of adoption digital has, you know, how everybody is flocking to digital, would you say your main priority and your main competition is battling with the digital platforms as opposed to your other contemporaries on TV?
Neeta, NDTV has been digital first long before I got here. Right. Long before other newsrooms were even thinking of apps. This is the OG of India's digital ecosystem. They have one of India's best news apps, if not one of the world's best news apps. Their Google domain authority is very deep into the Google algorithm, which is why when you're looking for stories, the first brand, the keyword that pops up is NDTV, which is nothing to do with us at this moment. This is the work that the fabulous battery of journalists, editors, producers over 3 decades have done. This is thanks to their effort. That this is India's digital OG. So other platforms are coming to terms with this digital reality now. NDTV was digital first. Even in terms of revenue, we make more money on the digital side than we do on television. And therefore, this is not something that scares us. NDTV is and has been forever digital first. It's a change we're embracing wholeheartedly. And ultimately, even on these digital platforms, people will go to handles or pages or channels that they connect with. Ultimately, when there's so much algorithmic pushes, do people trust your brand? NDTV Digital has amongst the highest percentages of people coming directly on the homepage. In the companies that I've known, just a very small fraction of your daily readership comes directly to the brand. Most of it came earlier through Google search and discover. NDTV is the one Indian news organization which gets people directly on the homepage. That's the connect it has with its audiences. And we're trying to build on that. You're trying to build on that, you're trying to grow that, and that's the effort that's currently underway. So I think I'm hugely excited by the changes the digital frontiers present for news organizations. I know that there is a lot of upheaval at this moment. Many will potentially fall by the wayside, but I am quite certain that the one brand that will be standing once the ruins are being counted will be NDTV.
इन्हीं सब सवालों को आगे बढ़ाते हैं. आपने चैलेंज की बात की, आपने डिजिटल की बात की. अगर हम आपके 12-14 महीने का, शायद मेरे ख्याल से आपका 16 महीने का, तो इस जो कम समय में आपने क्या क्या चेंजेस किए जो आप आए तब से, उसके बाद आपने न्यूज़ रूम में क्या क्या चेंज किए, पहली बात. दूसरी चीज़, क्या आपको लगता है कि जो चेंज किए वो सभी काम कर रहे हैं? बाकी आप क्या करने वाले हैं इस पर तो हम बाद में बात करेंगे, फिलहाल इस पर बात करते हैं.
सबसे पहले पंकज, हमने अपने कोर न्यूज़ को मजबूत करने की कोशिश की कि अगर आपकी न्यूज़ टीम्स हैं, वो हिंदी में हो, अंग्रेज़ी में हो, बिज़नेस में हो, रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस में हो, तो वो लगना चाहिए कि वो लड़ भिड़ रहे हैं न्यूज़ के लिए. ऐसा नहीं लग रहा कि न्यूज़ ब्रेक हो रही है, ये लोग सो रहे हैं या वीकेंड मना रहे हैं, या फ़र्क ही नहीं पड़ रहा कि खबर आ रही है, जा रही है, हम लोग हरकत में हैं कि नहीं. कि लगना चाहिए कि ये 24 घंटे का निरंतर लगातार ताबड़तोड़ न्यूज़ चैनल है. पहले वो एनर्जी और वो पैशन आपके न्यूज़ रूम में, आपकी स्क्रीन पर, आपके टिकर पर, आपके ट्विटर हैंडल पे, आपके इंस्टाग्राम पेज पर दिखना चाहिए कि ये न्यूज़ में. दूसरा ये कि आप ये नहीं मान सकते कि हम लोग रेस में हैं. क्या आप लोग रेस जीतने के लिए लड़ रहे हैं कि नहीं? ये जैसे कभी कभी क्या होता है कि कहते थे कि हाँ, इंडियन टीम गई ओलंपिक्स में, हमने हिस्सा लिया, बहुत अच्छी बात है. मैं यहाँ पे ओलंपिक्स में हिस्सा लेने नहीं आया हूँ, मैं यहाँ पे जीतने आया हूँ. और टीम में वो जज्बा हो कि हम लोग जीतेंगे, हम जीत रहे हैं, हम जीतने की तरफ प्रयास कर रहे हैं, ये बहुत ज़रूरी है. तो पहले तो न्यूज़ को आप स्ट्रेंथन कीजिए कि आपके चैनल की कोई रेलेवेंस हो. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि एनडीटीवी क्या दिखा रहा है, इससे किसी की सेहत पे फ़र्क ही नहीं पड़ रहा कि वो है तो भी, नहीं है तो भी. मतलब कई सारे चैनल इतने रूखे सूखे से हैं कि वो दिखाएं, करें ना करें, उससे कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता. एनडीटीवी पे खबर चलती है तो व्हाइट हाउस से लेकर दिल्ली के हर गलियारे तक, चेन्नई से लेकर दुनिया में आप कोई भी हिस्सा ले लीजिए, वहाँ पे उसका असर है. ये मुझे पता है क्योंकि फ़ोन मुझे आता है कि खबर है, चैनल का इम्पैक्ट है, उसका रेलेवेंस है, ये बात है. तो पहली बात तो ये है कि ब्रांड का रेलेवेंस होना चाहिए, कोई क्रेडिबिलिटी होनी चाहिए, कोई विश्वसनीयता होनी चाहिए. दूसरा ये कि ऑडियंस आपको देख रही है कि नहीं. एनडीटीवी में एक वक्त पे ये सोच थी कि यार हम तो बहुत अच्छे हैं और हम बहुत अच्छा करते हैं, लोग हमें देखते नहीं हैं, लेकिन वो इसलिए क्योंकि ये रेटिंग वेटिंग सब बर्बाद है, इससे कुछ होता नहीं है और हम रेटिंग के पर. मैं ये नहीं मानता भाई, अगर आप काम कर रहे हैं तो लोग आपको देख रहे हैं कि नहीं. वो इंस्टाग्राम पे हो, एक्स पे हो, लिंक्डइन पे हो, टीवी पे हो, यूट्यूब पे हो, तो आपको दिख ही रहा है ना. आप ये नहीं कह सकते ये मेरा वीडियो तो बेस्ट वीडियो था, इसको किसी ने देखा नहीं, लेकिन मेरे सवाल इतने अच्छे थे कि उनको समझ में नहीं आया. ये कोई मतलब नहीं. इस लॉजिक से मैं एग्री नहीं करता कि अगर आप कर रहे हो तो उसका इम्पैक्ट होना चाहिए, वो दिखना चाहिए. तो दूसरा हमने कोशिश की कि जो हमारा काम है, जैसे यूट्यूब पे, सोशल पे, डिजिटल पे, क्योंकि पिछले कई सालों में कई सारी फाइनेंशियल दिक्कतें थी, कई सारे लीगल चैलेंजेस थे, तो जो प्रयोग बाकी कंपनियों में हुए वो इतना यहाँ पे नहीं हुए क्योंकि टीम बाकी चीज़ों में फंसी हुई थी. तो उन चीज़ों को हमने मजबूत करने की कोशिश की. और तीसरी कोशिश हमने की कि एक एनडीटीवी मल्टीवर्स बनाने की दिशा में हम लोग बढ़ें, जिसमें लाइफलाइन जो कि हेल्थ केयर, एंटी एजिंग, वेलनेस, इससे जुड़ी हुई है. लॉन्च पैड जो कि करियर प्रोग्रेशन, अपस्किलिंग, इस तरह की चीज़ों से वास्ता रखता है. एनडीटीवी गुड टाइम्स जो कि लाइफस्टाइल, एंटरटेनमेंट, फिल्म्स, लग्जरी, इस तरह की चीज़ों से वास्ता रखता है। NDTV ऑटोमेट, जो कि गाड़ियों के बारे में हम खबरें दिखाते, तो इस तरह के कई सारे वर्टिकल्स पे हमने काम करना शुरू किया है। एक तरीके से जैसे आप मानिए कि अभी आप पौधा लगा रहे हैं, ये पेड़ बनेगा। जो हमने कोशिश की है पिछले 14 महीनों में, वो ये है कि इस तरह के पौधे लगाए जाएं जो कि एक मल्टीवर्स बने, कि आपका न्यूज़ है वो आपका कोर इंजन है, उस कोर इंजन के इर्द गिर्द आप अलग अलग नए पिलर्स बनाएं, वो पिलर्स आपके लिए कम्युनिटी बने, आपको अपने ऑडियंस से कनेक्ट करें, और साथ ही साथ उसी तरीके से आप एक नया NDTV बनाएं।
Rahul, there's a perception, when I interact with industry folks, they say that NDTV isn't making enough impact editorially. What would you say on that?
People are entitled to think whatever they want. What somebody else working in some other newsroom thinks, frankly, is of no concern to me. What is far more important is whether those who are in the news ecosystem, those who we are reporting on, or more importantly, those who are watching us, whether they feel we are making an impact or not. When our teams were in Chennai covering the swearing in of Vijay, or when we were in Bangalore when the leadership transition happened, there were dozens of people coming over to Shivarur, Veeraraga, Vasudha, Venugopal, saying, "Oh, we saw you on NDTV, can we get a photograph?" That is impact. What those people think, that matters to me. What some person sitting in some newsroom thinks of us is inconsequential. That is real impact. I'd gone during the Bihar elections to these very impoverished parts of Bihar, beyond Purnia, Kishanganj. There people came up and said, अरे हमने आपका ये वाला इंटरव्यू NDTV इंडिया पे देखा था, अरे आप तो मखाना के खेत में कूद गए थे. This is in places like Kishanganj, and this is NDTV India, and we just about started, and I'm hardly even coming on air and anchoring. That is how deeply penetrated the idea of NDTV is. This is not a normal news brand. These are 4 magical letters, Rahul, NDTV. What some jealous competitor sitting in a rival newsroom thinks of our editorial impact is completely inconsequential. Or those who matter, from the White House in Washington to Kartavya Bhavan in New Delhi, to the corridors of power in Chennai, Rajasthan, West Bengal, and to the streets, villages of India, what they think of our editorial impact, that is what I'm concerned about. Rivals are welcome to think whatever they want.
Connecting editorial impact to also revenue, I want to understand, you've announced a slate of new ventures, which is from auto, lifestyle, data-driven journalism, all of that. I want to understand, how are you prioritizing in such a way that you're not spreading out your resources too thin when there is revenue pressure already? And how will you make sure that your core journalism is not sacrificed when you advance into all of these different platforms?
So the first thing that we're trying to do is strengthen the core of our journalism. Invest in storytelling, in Hindi, in English, on our regional channels, in business news. That is core, and that is most important. That's what takes up the bulk of our resources, that takes up the bulk of our energy and effort, and that is more important than anything else. But given the fact that linear television is under pressure, and that is a headwind you can't deny, and given the fact that AI is eating up a lot of Google search and discover traffic, and that again is a reality that you can't deny, how do you build a sustainable business which keeps in mind these realities? It is there that I think, Neeta, that we need to build up an NDTV multiverse. So we've got NDTV World. I think this is my biggest passion project. It defines the scale of our ambition. India doesn't have a global media brand. India doesn't have the equivalent of a CNN or an Al Jazeera or a TRT or even a CGTN. There is only one Indian media brand that is capable of being India's voice to the world and the world's window to India. That is NDTV. When you travel abroad, wherever you go, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, America, they know of NDTV. And you currently have the resources, you have the wherewithal, you have the ambition and the appetite to build out India's media window to the rest of the world. That's what we're building on. It also makes sense from a business perspective, because whatever eyeballs you get, they're all international, so it's dollar denominated, it's not in Indian rupees. That's the advantage in terms of building that out. But outside of just the revenue that comes with it, this signals the ambition and the determination of the new NDTV to build a global media platform. It won't happen in 1 year, it may not even happen in 2, it will take time. But that is something that we're committed to, having, this is almost 1/6 of humanity. And therefore, what do these people think? What's happening inside India? What does the diaspora think? How is the world looking at India? How is India looking at the world? This is a central idea to what we're hoping to build in NDTV. And we're taking steps in that direction. We're not going headlong and booking all the investments in the first few months. We're doing it step by step, by and by. But this is very important. Similarly, NDTV Good Times, movies, entertainment, lifestyle. We had a fantastic show called Band Baja Bride, which was how Sabyasachi became Sabyasachi. I mean, he was on Band Baja Bride. He was on the jury of the NDTV Art Awards recently, and he says, I hope you know. I said, of course I do, but he said, I hope you know that I used to do Band Baja Bride, and that's how people got to know of the legend of Sabyasachi. We're bringing that back. There's Highway on My Plate, the Food Awards. The idea, Neeta, is to build strong communities. They can be big communities, they can be small like golf, they can be even smaller and niche like art and photography, but these are important communities. News organizations need to build strong communities because you're not going to get anything from Google search and discover. You have to have some value proposition that brings people to you. That is very, very important.
किसी भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में एक सीईओ अलग है, एडिटर इन चीफ अलग है, उन दोनों के अलग अलग इंटरेस्ट होते हैं, कई बार क्लैश भी होता है. आपके साथ क्या है कि आप एडिटर एंड सीईओ दोनों का दायित्व संभाल रहे हैं, तो कई बार क्या एडवांटेज मिलता है इस चीज़ का या डिसएडवांटेज भी होता है कि प्रेशर ज़्यादा आ जाता है? एडवांटेज है कि यार कोई है नहीं, मतलब मैं ही जो डिसीजन लेना है, क्या मतलब आपको क्या लगता है?
मैं एक पत्रकार हूँ
जी,
मेरे लिए पत्रकारिता सबसे ज़्यादा अहम है. पैसा भी कमाएंगे लेकिन ईमानदारी से कमाएंगे और जो काम करेंगे सच्चाई से करेंगे, अच्छे से करेंगे और मेहनत से करेंगे. जितने भी हमने बातें कही, अभी हम लोग नेपाल जा रहे हैं, वहाँ पे अन्वीक्षा कर रहे हैं. अन्वीक्षा इज़ इंक्वायरी, इट्स थॉट, इट्स डायलॉग, इट्स डिलिबरेशन. We'll take Anviksha to Dubai, we'll take it to Europe, we'll take it to America, we'll take it to New Zealand, we'll take it to Australia, and we'll talk about what India is doing globally and how the world is looking at India. And yes, we will make money, but it's also about thought, it's about leadership, it's about ideas, it's about deliberation. So there are different things that you can do to make money through legitimate means. I think that is important. At the core, I mean, if you wanted to get a pure play CEO, you can find somebody who comes from a sales background, you got somebody who comes from a journalism background. My job is to ensure the news stays clean, and I will do as much as I can to the best of my ability to ensure it stays that way.
Right. I want to quickly ask two quick questions because time, I don't want to miss any question. One is 16 months almost, and how do you rate your outcomes?
मैं अपने आप को certificate दूं, that is meaningless,
No,
right?
I mean, what would you say are your biggest highs and lows, if you have to say?
I think the high is that NDTV matters. NDTV has mind space, it's being spoken of. Nobody can deny the strength that they're seeing in the brand, the vitality that they're seeing in the brand, the ideas, the coverage of news, the coverage of elections, the coverage of budget, Davos. In some ways, because of problems beyond any professional's control, NDTV had fallen off people's mind space, right? The fact that you've penetrated mind space, that people are looking at you, engaging with you, caring about what you do, that I think is most important. Everything else is building on it. All of what I just mentioned, Rohit, the art awards, the photography awards, the food awards, or even the coverage that we do. We did an India-Japan summit recently. These are things that take time to build up. You know, the India Today conclave, for example, wasn't built in one day. It's year after year, when you do what you do, people get some confidence in your team's ability to pull it off. That's when it really becomes a big deal. We did golf, for example, last year with PGTI. We probably didn't make as much money as we could have or should have on that IP. That's because people didn't know. Yeah, maybe 20 years ago, NDTV used to do golf. Can they do it now? Are they capable of pulling it off? It is when they see that they start to believe. My job is to ensure that they like what they see. Once they have faith in your ability to deliver, everything else follows. You build the content, you deliver, like we did the Business Leadership Awards this year. The who's who of corporate India was there, the finance minister was there. Once you've seen that, next year when our teams go out and say, we're back again with the Business Leadership Awards, people will take that much more seriously. this year, हाँ बोल तो रहे हैं कर पाएंगे नहीं कर पाएंगे पता नहीं, and it's true, it's legitimate. I mean, how can you take away those concerns? Those are real concerns. Therefore, I say it's not what I say, it's what Team NDTV does, and people will form their opinion not on the basis of what our critics or naysayers say, but on the basis of what they see.
You spoke about India Today, and that's a company that you worked with for several years. And recently, they laid off about 120 employees. And this is one of those firms which is not seeing red in their balance sheets yet. Now, with declining TV news viewership, mounting losses, are such layoffs going to be a reality across TV channels soon? Is that happening at NDTV?
I can't comment on what India Today has done. That newsroom is very dear to me. I've spent 2+ decades over there, from the promoters to the drivers to the housekeeping staff. These are people who've been part of my family and part of my ecosystem. I care for them very deeply, and I am very close to them emotionally even now. It's very sad that they had to let some people go. I can't comment on that at all. It's a decision that the management has to take. The difference with NDTV at this time, Neeta, is that we're coming from a low base. Given how big this brand is, in revenue, NDTV had really fallen off the cliff for the TV channels, whether it's in Hindi or English or business. As we build our editorial muscle, as we build our sales machine, what we're trying to do is win business back, win back what is legitimately worthy of being with NDTV. The other big media brands are making much more money at this time because they have stronger muscles. Like, we didn't have a connected TV team. We didn't have a YouTube sales team. We didn't have an international sales channel. So as we build that sales machine out, you start monetizing the presence of those sales resources in these functions. So that's how it's growing. But yes, you're absolutely right. Times are tough. Media economics are deeply flawed, not just in India but internationally. And the jobs of people in management in any of these organizations is to be extremely careful about how they spend money, what they spend on, to try and ensure that each rupee that is spent is stretched as much as is possible, that it delivers the maximum possible return on investment, and that we're able to chart out a viable path to profitability at the earliest possible. We'll do this the right way. We'll put in the hard yards to try and make it happen. And we will work towards ensuring that we're financially independent and viable.
But realistically, how many years are you giving yourself for this turnaround?
That's an internal conversation, and I realize that I'll ultimately be judged as chief executive not by what I say in this interview, but by the financial returns our organization delivers quarter after quarter in the quarters ahead. That is the ultimate litmus test. It's a test that I am committed to deliver on. And we're working extremely hard across a whole bunch of ideas, some of which we've discussed and some of which we haven't, to try and build out alternate revenue streams. It's not about blackmail, that if you want this interview, pay me money. If you don't pay me, I won't do this. That's not the way to do it. There are proper ways of making money legitimately by building out these kind of ecosystems that I spoke about, communities that I spoke about, IPs that I spoke of. That's how you build your business.
लेकिन एक छोटा सा सवाल है, इंडस्ट्री में तमाम लोगों का ये मानना है कि जब से आप एनडीटीवी में आए हैं तो किसी खास संस्थान से, खास विशेष नाम मैं नहीं लूँगा, वहाँ से इधर एनडीटीवी आने वालों की संख्या में इजाफा हुआ है. क्या कुछ ऐसा है कि उनको एडवांटेज मिल रहा है, या अगर ऐसा है तो क्या इसके पीछे कोई खास वजह है?
जहाँ तक मुझे मालूम है, हमारे पास इस देश की हर संस्थान से कई सारे पत्रकारों ने ज्वाइन किया है, और अभी भी जहाँ से भी लोग आ रहे हैं, हम ये नहीं देखते उनके बायोडाटा में कि वो इस वक्त कहाँ पे काम कर रहे हैं या वो किसी एक विशेष संस्थान में है या नहीं. हम उनका काम देखते हैं, उनका बैकग्राउंड देखते हैं, हम उनके स्किल्स को प्रोफाइल करते हैं. और पंकज, मेरा ये सौभाग्य है और एनडीटीवी का सौभाग्य है कि इतने अच्छे टैलेंटेड प्रोफेशनल्स ने ज्वाइन किया, क्योंकि एनडीटीवी कभी भी कोई एक शख्स नहीं बना सकता. अगर ये बनेगा, ब्रांड एक बार फिर से खड़ा होगा, तो इसमें अनेकों लोगों की मेहनत, उनकी लगन, उनका प्रयास जुड़ेगा. और हमने वही कोशिश की है कि जो भी कोई स्ट्रैटेजी में हो, रेवेन्यू में हो, सेल्स प्लानिंग में हो, कोई भी फंक्शन हो, एंकर हो, एडिटर हो, टीवी में हो, पीछे हो, हम बेस्ट आदमी को लें या बेस्ट महिला को लें, और एक इक्वल प्लेइंग फील्ड हो जहाँ पे कोई डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं है कि आप किस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से आते हैं, पुरुष हैं, महिला हैं, क्या है. एक फेयर लेवल प्लेइंग फील्ड हो, सबको इज्जत के भाव से ट्रीट किया जाए, सबको रिस्पेक्ट मिले, सबको प्रोफेशनली ग्रो करने का मौका मिले, ये चीज़ें मेरे लिए बहुत ज़्यादा अहम है। कामयाबी मिले ना मिले ये इतना ज़रूरी नहीं है, ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है कि आप जिस रास्ते पे चले उस रास्ते में नेकी थी या नहीं, सच्चाई थी या नहीं, आपने अच्छे से काम किया नहीं। मेरे लिए वो ज़्यादा मायने रखता है कि जब आप सामने नहीं होते, आपके पीठ पीछे आपकी टीम क्या बोलती है, ये ज़्यादा अहम है। अगर आपके सामने, अगर आपके बॉस यहाँ पे खड़े हों, उनके सामने तो आप उनकी तारीफ़ करेंगे ही, लेकिन जब ये कैमरा बंद हो जाए, जब कोई है नहीं, तब आप उनके बारे में क्या बोलते हैं, वो ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है। वो एक ऐसी पूंजी है जो कि अमूल्य है, वो पूंजी सबसे ज़रूरी है। मेरे पिता पंकज ये कहा करते थे कि कामयाबी इससे सुनिश्चित नहीं होती कि आपने कितने लोगों का करियर बिगाड़ा जी। कामयाबी इससे तय होती है कि आपने कितने लोगों का करियर बनाया, कितने लोग आपको गुरु मानते हैं या आपके बारे में अच्छी चीज़ें कहते हैं या कहते हैं कि आपसे उन्होंने कुछ सीखा या जाना या देखा। वो एक ऐसी पूंजी है जो कि मेरे लिए बहुत ज़्यादा वैल्यू रखती है और वही मेरी ज़िंदगी की असली पूंजी है। वही पूंजी कमाने की मैं हमेशा कोशिश करता हूँ।
So, Rahul, tell me, is there anything that bothers you the most? What is that thing that bothers you as editor and CEO of NDTV the most?
I think the fact that AI is playing the kind of role that it is, Rahul, and that Google search and discover traffic is coming down almost week after week, not just month on month, is a huge concern for all digital news publishers. NDTV is luckier than most in the sense that we have a lot of direct traffic that comes straight to the page, whether it's our home page or it's the app, and a lot of people come directly and engage with the website. But that's not something that we take for granted. The fact that there is a massive downturn in Google search traffic and discover traffic, and that this is upending all notions of the digital business as we know it, that's of concern. So moving to build the kind of multiverse that I described earlier with speed and purpose, so that before you get to a Google Zero world, you've built out a multiverse which can sustain you. Because when algorithms decide where brands go or where news goes or where users go, the only thing a media organization has is trust. It has credibility. It has the belief of its consumers that bring those consumers back to the brand's homepage or app. That is all that you have. Building that is what is of immense importance to us. I know it's like time is running out. We're heading towards Google Zero. We're trying to rebuild all that we're trying to build, and we're trying to do it really quickly. So before we get to a Google Zero world, what have you got which can last in a Google Zero scenario?
Okay.
एक ट्रस्ट और क्रेडिबिलिटी की आपने बात करी, और अभी हम जो बात करें कि एआई की, तो मेरे दो सवाल आपस में जैसे मिले हुए हैं कि एआई न्यूज़ रूम में लगातार चल रहा है, तो एआई को लेकर एनडीटीवी क्या कर रहा है, और क्या आपको लगता है कि आने वाले समय में ये चुनौती और बढ़ेगी? तो किस तरह से ऐसा कोई है कि जो एआई कर सकता है, मतलब जो आदमी कर सकता है वो एआई नहीं कर पाएगा? एक तो ये, दूसरा, और ऐसे माहौल में जब एआई बढ़ रहा है, सब कुछ बढ़ रहा है, फेक न्यूज़ है, ट्रस्ट की आपने बात करी, तो कैसे मेंटेन रखेगा एनडीटीवी उसे?
एनडीटीवी में हम लोग बहुत एआई यूज़ कर रहे हैं, न्यूज़ प्रोसेसेस में, टेक्स्ट को ग्राफिक बनाने में, एडिटिंग में, आपके अलग अलग फॉर्मेट्स को रीपर्पस करने में पहले बहुत सारा टाइम ख़राब होता था कि आप पहले वर्टिकल वीडियो बना रहे हो, अब आप हॉरिजॉन्टल बना रहे हो, तो कई सारी चीज़ों में आप एआई के इस्तेमाल से काम को जल्दी कर सकते हैं, ज़्यादा स्पीड से कर सकते हैं, ज़्यादा इफेक्टिवली कर सकते हैं। साथ ही साथ फाइनेंस में, एचआर में, लीगल में कई सारी चीज़ें जिसमें बहुत वक्त लगता था, वो अब कम वक्त में एआई की सहायता से की जा सकती हैं। मैं एआई एंकर्स में विश्वास नहीं करता। मुझे मालूम है कई न्यूज़ रूम्स हैं जहाँ पे कहते हैं कि एंकर्स हमारे एआई वाले हैं।
आप ही ने लाए थे शायद।
मेरे को लगता है कि जो भी खबरें बता रहा है वो इंसान होना चाहिए, क्योंकि आप मानेंगे, जैसे मैं हूँ यहाँ पे, मैं आपके सवालों के जवाब दे रहा हूँ, आप लोग हर तरह का सवाल पूछ रहे हैं, अब मैंने कैसे जवाब दिया, उस जवाब में विश्वसनीयता थी या नहीं, ये तो जो दर्शक है वो देखेगा और तय करेगा ना। अगर यहाँ एआई मशीन बैठ के या कोई महिला या पुरुष एआई एंकर आके खबरें बता दे, तो आपका जो कनेक्ट है दर्शकों से वो कट जाता है। तो फिलोसॉफिकली, आइडियोलॉजिकली, आई एम अपोज्ड टू एआई एंकर्स. I believe that there's a lot of use for AI at the back end in news processes, production, graphics, automation, finance, HR, legal. So that's where we're using AI on the app, creating more content, etc. But you want to see Pankaj faces. If you see a Shivarur, you know about him. You know what he does. You know what kind of food he eats, what he likes, what he doesn't like. You know his biases, you know his strengths, and you process it keeping him in mind. Same is the case with Syed Sohail. Take anybody, Padmaja. You want to feel human beings. You don't want to be talking to a machine when you're consuming the news, and that is really important. So the ultimate person who delivers and presents the news has to be human. I think that is very important. A human connection with your audience is extremely important. AI has a lot of use. The use is largely at the back end. The moment you have fake anchors and AI anchors presenting the news, you've lost your connection with the audience. Then what's the difference between your marquee media brand and somebody else? It's ultimately just a machine that's talking. You've programmed a machine, some kid sitting in some school, university, he can program another machine. What's the difference? I think it's a bad idea.
So we will never see a Rahul Kanwal AI avatar on screen.
We're not even seeing you anchor the main show. Are you coming back?
Rahul, this is a question that I get asked very often.
Do you miss, because there's so much news happening, do you really miss?
This is a conscious call that I took, Rahul, because you can't be coach of the team and captain and want to bat yourself. The moment an editor-in-chief is also anchoring a daily primetime show, a lot of the energy of the newsroom gets concentrated around trying to make that person's show shine. You have to ultimately make a choice. Do you want to be on the field, or do you want to be off it? And you have to be okay with letting other brands outshine you. Let them become bigger. I think one of the best things about Prannoy Roy was the fact that he was comfortable with the stardom of Rajdeep, Barkha and Arnab and everybody else in that fantastic newsroom back then, that he was okay with other people being more famous with them. Same is the case with Mr. Arun Puri. The fact that you had Pankaj, you had Prabhu Chawla, Shekhar Gupta, I don't want to take any one odd name, but there was a legion of stars, it's a galaxy of editorial talent, and they're okay with it. You've got people, I try and hire people who are much smarter than me. It's one of the things that I'm most determined to do. You have to get people across functions who are smarter than you, they're better than you, and they add value to what you do. That's how you build something of value. If you are insecure and you're constantly trying to hire people who are less competent than you are, you'll never be able to build a great institution. And if you see all the people that we've seen recently, whether it is Raghav Behel at Network 18, whether it is an Arun Puri at India Today, or it is Dr. Prannoy Roy at NDTV, they were comfortable in their skin, they were okay with others outshining them. I think that is very important. I can't be in the middle of this interview, any other review, sales review, board meeting, etc., and running away to try and record an interview for my primetime show. That's not fair. You're not doing justice to your audience. You're not doing, because it takes a lot of effort, it takes research, it takes practice, it takes thinking. What are you thinking about? Are you thinking about your show tonight, what you're going to say? Or are you thinking about what we're doing with the app? Are you thinking about what you're doing with the website? Are you thinking about what we're doing in Nepal, or what we're going to do at the World Summit in October? Right. So you have to be very clear in your head. And this is not something new. I was 27 years old. I used to anchor the 9 p.m. news on Aaj Tak. This is when television news is at its peak. I would step out and there'd be people wanting to talk and do photos, etc., etc. I gave that up when I got the opportunity to run headlines today. I just gave it up, and many people said, "पागल हो गए हो, आज तक की रात की 9 बजे की खबरें." उस वक्त पे जब कोई सोशल मीडिया नहीं था, कोई इंस्टाग्राम नहीं था, केवल लोग टीवी न्यूज़ देखते थे कि कौन छोड़ता है, कोई भी नहीं छोड़ता, तुम पागल हो गए। मैंने बोला नहीं, अगर आपको हेडलाइंस टुडे के संपादक के तौर पे काम करना है तो आपको फिर ये रात की 9 बजे की खबरें छोड़नी होंगी। आप 10 बजे तक यहाँ पे हो, फिर आप चैनल कैसे चलाओगे? नहीं चला सकते। इसी तरीके से जब मुझे इंडिया टुडे में न्यूज़ डायरेक्टर बनाया गया तो मैंने सीधी बात छोड़ दी। फिर लोगों ने बोला, अरे सीधी बात कौन छोड़ता है, ये तो आप कभी भी सीएम से या टॉप मिनिस्टर से आप बात करते हो, सीधी बात पे आते हैं, सीधी बात कौन, पागल हो, सीधी बात कौन छोड़ता है? कोई नहीं छोड़ता। तभी मैंने यही कहा रोहिल कि अगर आपको न्यूज़ डायरेक्टर का काम करना है, आपको 100 रिपोर्टर्स की स्टोरीज़ को गाइड करना है, शेप करना है, तो आप ये दिन में हफ्ते में 2 बार जाके आप यहाँ जा रहे हो, गोरखपुर जा रहे हो, कहीं मुंबई नहीं कर सकते। बॉस जो नहीं कर सकते वो नहीं कर सकते। और अगर आपको वाकई में आने वाले वक्त के लिए एनडीटीवी को बनाना है, एक ब्रांड बिल्ड करना है, तो उसमें जान फूकनी है, तो आपको उसमें ताकत लगानी होगी। अब आप दिन बीच में अपना जाके शो करते रहोगे तो ये नहीं होगा।
From that same CEO lens, BARC ratings have been suspended. Do you think that is going to further impact the revenues of news channels considering the festive season? Also, the new TV rating policy opens the door for multiple rating agencies. Do you think that is a good idea? The monopoly should be eliminated?
The rating system, Neeta, as you know well and you report on this closely, is deeply flawed. and a lot of the critique that is directed towards BARC and towards the way ratings are collected and presented is valid. But there is one mechanism. The Election Commission has limitations. The process is not as fair as it should be. But we saw in the by-polls recently, we saw in Chennai, we've seen elsewhere, when people make up their minds, results are visible and the vote talks. I think this is extremely important, that there has to be some mechanism which allows for us to determine who's watching how much. You can't say that there is no BARC and that there is no alternate either. And there is so much delusion and ego in newsrooms that everyone is convinced that they're the best. You speak to any of the anchors or editors in chief of other organizations, अरे हमें तो बहुत लोग देखते हैं यहाँ से लेके टिम्बकटू, अरे भाई ऐसे नहीं होता. There has to be some yardstick which determines who is being watched by how many people, and it has to be a yardstick you don't control. So I am very keen that the BARC rating system comes back at the earliest possible. I'm also keen that there be multiple sources of ratings. It shouldn't just be one. So the government has encouraged other players to come on board, and I think the more players we have, the better. Because if you're doing well on one, it can be called a fluke. But if there are 3 or 4 rating mechanisms, and NDTV is doing really well on all, and you can feel how NDTV is doing, you can see it in the data, then
it's proper
all of
validation.
you and everyone else will have to accept that, yeah, there's something happening here. So we want ratings to come back. It's like fighting an election and not knowing whether you won. Because you worked hard, you know, your people went out, your panna pramukhs and Bhoot Prachar, this, that, you really tried very hard, and then they won't tell you who won. I think that's terrible. We want elections to be held fairly, freely, and we want to know who won. So we want, similarly, for ratings to come back. It's very important because NDTV at this moment is being priced at last year's ratings, which is very unfair because it's grown a lot since then. To what extent has it grown? How much has it grown? We'll know only once ratings come back. So we're keen that ratings come back, and we're looking forward to this issue getting resolved as quickly as possible so people can see what's happening.
राहुल कंवल एक जैसा कि नाम है, तमाम लोगों के लिए इंस्पिरेशन है. आप कम समय में किया, तो जो कंटेंट क्रिएटर्स या मीडिया में जो आना चाह रहे हैं उनके लिए क्या 3 एडवाइस आपकी रहेंगी मेन?
नहीं, सबसे बड़ी एडवाइस तो है कि अपना काम ईमानदारी से करो. ये पैसे लेके खबरें मत दिखाओ. ऐसा कई भाई जो इन्फ्लुएंसर्स हैं, क्रिएटर्स हैं, सब नहीं, उनमें से कुछ. मैं अभी इलेक्शन कवर करने गया था, कईयों का रेट कार्ड निकला हुआ है कि इतने दोगे तो ऐसा हो जाएगा, एक रील के इतने, एक वीडियो के इतने. ये तो गलत है बॉस, ये तो एकदम ही गलत है, ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए. तो मेरा नहीं मानना कि जैसे ये कह देना कि सारे मेन स्ट्रीम चैनल बिके हुए हैं, गोदी मीडिया है, ये ठीक नहीं है. उसी तरीके से ये कह देना कि सारे इन्फ्लुएंसर्स बिके हुए, वो भी ठीक नहीं है. मुझे लगता है कि कई सारे इंडिपेंडेंट जर्नलिस्ट हैं जो कि अपना काम वाकई में इंडिपेंडेंस के साथ, एडिटोरियल इंटेग्रिटी के साथ करें. उनकी मैं बहुत इज्जत करता हूँ. मैं उनकी राय से इत्तेफाक रखूं या ना रखूं, मुझे लगता है कि वो अच्छा काम करें, बुलंदी से बेखौफ होकर अपनी बात रख रहे हैं, जो कि अच्छी बात है, लोकतंत्र में होना चाहिए, और उनकी मैं इज्जत भी करता हूँ. दूसरी तरफ कई ऐसे भी हैं जो कि पैसे लेके आप उनसे कुछ भी बुलवा लो, उनको पैसे दो, कोई ब्रांड इंडोर्स करना हो, कुछ करना हो, कोई ट्रेंड चलाना हो, ये वो इतने पैसे दो, मार्केटिंग टीम देगी या कोई पार्टी देगी, वो कुछ भी कर देंगे. ये तो गलत है. वो अब मेन स्ट्रीम चैनल करे तो भी गलत है, कोई इन्फ्लुएंसर करे तो भी गलत है. तो मुझे लगता है ये जो कभी कभी क्या होता है कि हम लोग बाइनरी बना देते हैं कि सही गलत, मेन स्ट्रीम बस, ऐसा नहीं है बॉस. मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया में भी कई संस्थान हैं, कई प्रोफेशनल्स हैं जो कि बहुत मेहनत से, शिद्दत से अपना काम करने की कोशिश करते हैं. उसी तरीके से इंडिपेंडेंट जर्नलिस्ट के बीच में भी कई सारे हैं जो कि बहुत एफर्ट से अपना काम करने की कोशिश करते हैं. दूसरा मेरा ये है कि साइड ना लो. ये जो एक फैशन है कि रील में या वीडियो में लाइक्स, सब्सक्राइबर्स तब बढ़ेंगे जब कुछ एजी बोलते हैं. क्यों भाई? क्योंकि जो वास्तविकता है ज़िंदगी, वो बहुत ही गंभीर है. उसमें कुछ सही है, कुछ गलत है. सरकार हो या विपक्ष हो, कुछ वो अच्छा करेगी, कुछ बुरा करेगी. आप में क्षमता होनी चाहिए कि आप अच्छी बात को अच्छा बोलो, बुरी बात को बुरा बोलो. ये कह देना कि सभी कुछ खराब है या ये कह देना कि सभी कुछ अच्छा है, वो दोनों गलत है. मुझे लगता है कि बैलेंस होना चाहिए, गुड सेंस होना चाहिए. आपकी कोशिश आखिरकार हाँ या ना नहीं है भाई, उसमें कई सारे शेड्स होते हैं, उनको एक्सप्लोर करने की ज़रूरत है. मुद्दों के बारे में गंभीरता से, गहराई से सोचने की ज़रूरत है. ये रील में कि दौड़ जाए मेरा इंटरव्यू या दौड़ जाए मेरी रील, वो डिटरमिन करोगे तो you're just slipping towards extremes.
Rahul, when you joined NDTV, it was famously said by someone, you know, I know, that NDTV is now dead. What do you make of those comments?
You know, I don't think any one person can determine whether NDTV lives or dies. You know, for 3 decades, a legion of fabulous journalists, editors, anchors, producers, videographers have worked on building this brand. The connect it has with audiences in India, internationally, is very deep. It is the work that we will do that will determine how this brand stands, thrives, and heads into the future. I know that there are people in multiple newsrooms that would like nothing better than for NDTV to die, because an NDTV which is alive, an NDTV which is kicking, an NDTV which is breaking news in Davos, during the budget, during elections, is their worst nightmare. You don't want a competition, and you know who can compete with you, you know who can beat you, you know who can outthink you, and naturally, if I have a competitor I'm really worried about, I'd like that competitor to die. It's the most obvious, instinctive human reaction, and that's fine. I mean, I don't think anybody can kill NDTV. The idea of NDTV is an idea that's very deeply rooted in the fabric of the minds of our consumers. My responsibility is to keep that idea alive, to build on it, to give it a manifestation in its new avatar, which people connect with, they like, they watch, they appreciate, and that's what we're working towards. And that is what will determine, Rahul, whether NDTV lives, thrives, or dies. And no one person's like or dislike has anything to do with that.
Now, News 18 India has a tagline, Desh nahi jhukne denge. Republic Bharat says Rashtra ke naam. And NDTV India recently rebranded itself to Bharat Ka Vishwas. And of course, overall, you're getting a new face. Tell me, what editorial standards and measurable outcomes do you have to determine that the channel and the network has actually earned Bharat Ka Vishwas, and it's not just a rebranding process around the tagline?
It's very important for NDTV to be a big tent of ideas, of thought, of shades of opinion. It's not just one particular ideology or one point of view that prevails. That, to me, is very important. If there's something good that is happening, you should be able to appreciate it. If something is going wrong, you should be fearless and able to question it. The idea that you've already taken aside, like there are certain anchors and news organizations where you don't even have to turn up their audio because you already know what they're going to say. It's so predictable. I think that's wrong. There has to be a certain amount of thought applied to every issue, every topic, which is where your views emerge from, which is what shapes your reportage. That is very important. When things are going wrong in our country, abroad, when there's a fire that is burning and you're confused, you don't know what's happening, you know, what is the platform that you turn to? If that is NDTV, then we've earned your trust, because that is what really matters to us at NDTV. That when you don't know what's happening, you know, you're hearing different points of view, even on Instagram, on X, everywhere, you're hearing a particular point of view. You want the full picture. You want to know what's right, you want to know what's wrong. You want the full 360 perspective. That's when you come to NDTV. That's why the new NDTV tagline is Bharat Ka Vishwas. So we've done two things, Nita. We, one, dropped the 24/7 suffix to NDTV. It's just NDTV. Because when NDTV was launched a couple of decades ago, that time live television news was a big thing. Right. Now it's all on people's phones, right? You're watching TV, you could be on the app, you could be digital, you could be social, you could be on our LinkedIn, you could be on our Instagram, anyway. It's just one NDTV. So the idea is that it's just one brand, one identity, one thought, and that's why it's just NDTV. It's no longer NDTV 24/7. That's one idea. The other is that the motto for the channel is when it really matters. You know, when there's elections or there's budget or something really big, there's big breaking news, where do you go? There's so much synthetic AI-driven content generated by AI engines. You read that, it looks good, it's well written, but is it true? Is there meaning? Is there purpose? So where do you go? At that time, our hope is audiences will come to us when it really matters. And therefore, that's the idea that we're pushing out. NDTV when it really matters. Come, watch us, be with us, be on our app, come to our website, watch us on TV, see us on Instagram, wherever. Because when it really matters, India turns to NDTV. That's the idea.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rahul, for speaking to all of us and patiently answering all the questions.
Thank you very much. It's been fantastic having you.
Thank you so much.
बहुत बहुत सादगी से और अच्छे से जवाब दिए, इसके लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, आपने बड़े टेढ़े सवाल पूछे।